Welcome back to 12 Days of Music Stories. Today is day 6, and day 6 is Sonia Dada. So there's this guy named Daniel living in Chicago, and in 1986 he graduated from Northwestern with a law degree, but he doesn't really want to be a lawyer, even though that's sort of his family business. What Daniel really wants to do is be in a rock and roll band. And in 1990, he meets some musicians performing at a subway station, and they form a band together called Sonia Dada. They're kind of a mishmash of styles: rock, blues, funk, soul, and they become a fixture in the Chicago music scene in the early 90s. Daniel is the lead songwriter, and in 1992, one of the songs that he writes, a song called You Don't Treat Me No Good, becomes a big hit, but not really in the US. The song and the band's self-titled debut album, they do okay in America, but where they really take off is in Australia. In Australia, You Don't Treat Me No Good becomes a #1 hit. It's one of the biggest selling songs of 1993. Their album goes to #2 there and is double platinum, and the band headlines a tour throughout Australia. But Sonia Dada kind of peaked early. They never really matched that success again. They put out 3 more albums and a live album, with their last album being 2004's Test Pattern. But in the US, they're largely unknown, and in Australia, they're largely known as a one-hit wonder. But that's okay for Daniel. He never really needed Sonia Dada to be a big success, at least not financially, because Daniel had a pretty good fallback plan. Daniel was one of the richest people in America. Daniel Pritzker was a member of the Pritzker family and was worth billions of dollars. Daniel's father was this guy named J. Arthur Pritzker, who was born in Chicago in 1922. J. Pritzker's grandparents, so Daniel's great-grandparents, they had come to the US in the late 19th century from Kiev, which is now Ukraine but was then part of the Russian Empire, and they were Jewish, so they were fleeing the Russian Empire from persecution, and they did pretty well for themselves in Chicago. Members of the family had a successful law firm called Pritzker & Pritzker, but in the 1950s, J. Arthur Pritzker is the one that made the family billionaires. In 1957, he bought this motel near LAX in Los Angeles that was called Hyatt House. And J. Arthur Pritzker took this one motel and expanded it into a huge global chain called Hyatt. And now, decades later, a bunch of the members of the Pritzker family are billionaires, including Daniel, his brother Thomas, who is the executive chairman of Hyatt Hotels, and his cousin J.B. Pritzker, who is the current governor of Illinois. But Daniel, even though he's a billionaire, he's done some cool stuff as a music lover. He directed this movie called Bolden about the jazz legend Buddy Bolden. He produced a movie about Louis Armstrong called Louie. He also at one point bought Jerry Garcia's guitar Wolf for almost $1 million. Then he later auctioned it off for charity. He did pretty good for an Australian one-hit wonder. Oh, lover, lover, lover.